Hello and welcome to episode 8 of The Week That Was, a weekly program where you get to catch up with the headlines of the week. This week too, we review the headlines that appeared in Herald, the People's Voice. To discuss this week's headlines, to share his insights and analysis on the news that happened in the last week, we have with us Group Editor of Herald Publication and a reputed journalist, Mr. Sujay Gupta. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
We begin with the headlines that occurred on 7th January. The headline reads, "Changing names in Goa will now be a tough call." Now in this news item, we understand that an amendment has been proposed in the Act, and that says that only those people whose parents and grandparents were born in Goa can change their names. And the authority to change these names has been given to the judges of the Civil Court, Senior Division and the District Court. And the reason which is cited by the Law Minister is that many people from other states have changed their names to sound like indigenous names.
Goan names, yes. Yes, I think this is a very, very good decision, and it has come not a day too late, because the point is that it is a known fact that a large number of people, especially from neighboring states, Karnataka being one, Gujarat is another one, an example of this, where a lot of people are taking advantages in some loopholes, or they create loopholes to do these name changes so that they look like Goan names, and then they have a very established system, a racket one would call it, to ensure that all the proper documentation is done to make them eligible for Portuguese passports by virtue of their ancestry. And this is something that they've done, and if you see the pages of Navin Times or Herald, there will be many advertisements or classified announcements saying, me so and so, so and so Patel is hereby known as Peter Fernandez, or some Aslam Sheikh from Karnataka is hereby known as, say, Praveen Naik. So it's just that these name changes happen not only into Catholic names, though the changes to Catholic names are more than Hindu names, but the changes also happen to Hindu names which are Goan in nature, So you can have somebody, Patel, becoming a Pai Raiturkar also, So the thing is, these kind of things do happen, and there are obviously unscrupulous people at various levels in various institutions, including reputed international institutions. I will not take names here, but everybody would know what we mean, because ultimately the passport is given by an authority. So if the authority is also not, it's difficult to believe that the authority is completely blind to these things happening. But I think certain measures have been taken and steps have been taken to strengthen it. This could be one very good piece of legislation. And if it comes about, it will be good.
Okay, moving on to January 8th, we have exposure by the Congress party demanding forensic test of the police exam answer sheets. And in particular, the scam pertains to candidates having answered the constable exam in the police department and got very low marks, and some of them have failed, but they have done very well or extremely well in the PSI exam, where they have got marks in the 90s. Now there is also this news item in the Herald also points out that the BJP Mandal chairperson of Savarne has given 3 jobs to his family members.
Police jobs. Oh no.
Police jobs. A member of the BJP's IT department has given a job to his wife. And then also the BJP PRO has given a job to his brother-in-law. So therefore the Congress has asked how this has happened, because this has happened in many cases that they have scored very low in the constable jobs and very high in the PSI jobs.
I'll give you,
this is more than a coincidence.
I'll give you you are very right, and there is evidence to it. Because there is a person called Prajyot Prashant Bakle. Prajyot Prashant Bakle got 28 marks when he sat as a constable, and for his constable exams, and he got 99 when he applied for a PSI. I have the record with me here. There are many such people here. I've got a full list of absolutely shocking. Prashant Prajwal Prashant Bakle is of course definitely one I can spot right here. And see here he gets 28 and 99. Yeah. So similarly, there are many such cases here. There is somebody who gets 34 here and gets 88 somewhere else. So what I'm saying is I'm scrutinizing this list, and there are many such names. But Prajwal Prashant Bakle's name was picked out because the difference in his case was the maximum. 28, which is a fail mark, and 99, which is a pass mark.
And the modus operandi, I may just mention, is that they have the written exam first and then the physical exam, where physical exam is crucial actually to be a police person. Right. And secondly, they leave the answer sheets blank.
Okay. So it's clear that this brings us to a larger issue. I mean, the issue that we are specifically discussing, that somebody is a 0 in one exam and a hero in another exam, and that is manipulated. That is the manifestation of the malaise. The disease is far more serious. What happens is, let us also look at what will happen to this. If the lowest rung of the police system is infested with this kind of corruption, manipulation and nepotism, and all three for that matter, then the basic recruits at the bottom rung of the force are completely flawed. So the first brick that is laid on the foundation of policing is a weak brick. And when that happens, when that person comes through this kind of a manipulation, he will be loyal only to the masters who got him the job. Okay? And his intention therefore will be also to make money for himself and for his masters. Now imagine a Prajwal Prashant Bakle, when he goes up the ranks of the police, he is not interested in keeping himself fit, he is not interested in learning about proper policing, he is only interested in keeping his masters happy. Yeah. Now the Prajwal Prashant Bakle is a very good example of how if he crawls through the system, because once he is into the system will make him a PSI, from a PSI he will become a PI at one point of time, he will in turn become a DYSP. For all you know, after 30 years of service, he may even be absorbed into the IPS. Yeah. So imagine what the system will be that 30-35 years later, a Prajwal Prashant Bakle becomes SP of South Goa. It can happen, you know. But I'm just saying, look, so we need to look at it not just as only as a one-off case of this manipulation, but what it is doing to the system for the next 3 generations or more, you know. That's more important.
So moving on to 9th of January, you have the most important and most awaited announcement that the Goa elections are announced by the Election Commission of India for February 14th, and the results will be declared on March 10th. Now, there is a very strong condition which has been put by the Election Commission that winnability cannot be the reason to choose candidates with criminal cases. And if they do, they have to say why they have left out or why they couldn't find candidates with clean records. Also, this is the first election which is happening during the pandemic, and there are severe restrictions which have been put on campaigning especially.
2 things. I'll first address the issue of the restrictions during campaigning. Now, though many people, parties, politicians will complain about these kind of restrictions, but I think it's very important that these restrictions need to be in place, because lives matter more than votes. Let us be very clear about this. If the situation arises where you need to even postpone the elections and bring in emergency measures by making an amendment to the constitution, so be it. Having said that, I would say that while restrictions are being brought for elections, a level playing field should be followed, because you cannot have a situation where you open the doors of Goa during the Christmas New Year weekend and the place gets overrun by people from all over the country. They take back the viruses everywhere else, and this leads to a quantum spike in the case, and then you shut down and bring about a restriction during elections. I'm saying we need to look at both. While I'm advocating absolute safety and lives before votes policy, but at the same time we must take into account that these restrictions have been necessitated because of a very skewed kind of a policy of economics first and safety later policy, where without any control you bring in lakhs and lakhs of people into Goa. And if you see those videos that have emanated during New Year's Eve from Baga and Calangute, and those aerial images of cars and hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people locked in one particular lane in Baga, I think those are shuddering and very shocking images. So on that, I'm clear about one fact, that this needs to be done, and what has happened is absolutely fine, and these restrictions are critical. Okay. Also, I would like to go further as to add that political parties think that their entire campaign and their entire messaging to the people has to happen in those 2 to 3 weeks of campaigning. Yeah. My point is that it is a 5-year exercise. You need to be in touch with the people for 5 years. You need to tell the people what you are doing. What has happened is, in the last 4 weeks, if you jump parties, if you get new symbols, if you somehow grab a ticket and then run to the people, that is when you need to go to the people door to door and tell them, look, first you have to tell them who you are, and then you have to tell them vote for me.
What is the present avatar?
Yeah, for that obviously you need large number of public meetings, you need door to door, you need everything, because you are doing your 5 years work in 1 month. But if you are a good traditional politician and who's in touch with the people, you don't need to have any of these problems at all. Even if they say that you don't need to step out and vote, you and I remember our generation of our vintage will know so many politicians who didn't even have to step out of the houses and they used to be in election. Yeah. So those days are gone. Yeah. But I think the first part, I have not addressed the first part of your 2-part question. I've spoken about the restrictions.
The winnability cannot be the reason for choosing candidates.
Yes, that's important. Yeah. That is a very important aspect that the Election Commission has addressed in high time, because again the formula should be that you cannot look at winnability without credibility. My issue is that you have to have a credible candidate first, and then you look at. Otherwise, if winnability is what it is all about, then it is as good as saying that even the oldest profession in the world is an honorable profession, because the people engaged in those professions are earning money and having a livelihood, which is fine, with all due respect to anybody who's engaging in any kind of profession. But my point is, do you want to at any cost? And right now politics has begun to resemble the oldest profession in the world, which is very, very, very unfortunate. Where winnability, and then that is why when you use the word winnability, they hide the fact that you need to win at any cost. Okay, but I think that's not the way politics is. If at the end of the day, if a party takes a decision that we will field only credible candidates and sit in the opposition, or even be out of the assembly, but we'll have credible candidates, that's number one. I think people should accept that and react and back people and parties and groups that have the guts to do that and play the long term game.
And that would actually change the political culture also. Yes. Yeah. So then afterwards we move on to this week, that is beginning Monday. We have MLAs resigning from the Goa Assembly and then changing sides. We begin with 9 January when independent MLA Prasad Gaonkar quits as MLA and joins the Congress party, and he makes an allegation against the BJP that this is no longer the party it was when Parrikar was alive. And subsequently that is followed on January 11th, the date of the newspaper of course is January 12th, where BJP minister Michael Lobo resigns, and he's supposed to join the Congress, but then there is a hiccup in between, and then after a day he joins. Now, what has happened here is basically MLAs, resigning from parties and changing the parties, and finally on January 10th, January 10th, Lobo leaves the party, and January 11th he joins the Congress. So similarly, you have Govind Gowde resigning and joining the BJP. How does the electorate look at this resigning and changing parties?
See, the electorate, if they haven't already felt this way, sooner or later they will feel this way. See, what happens is, a politician's comment or assertions when he or she leaves a party and joins another party has become like a weather report which nobody believes. It is just exactly like that. When the weather report says it's going to rain, it's going to shine. And nobody takes it seriously. Most importantly, whether it's true or not, nobody takes it seriously. Because there is a standard template of comments that every politician makes. A is the party is not what it was. B, development works for not going on in my constituency. C, the future of my people is more important, and so on and so forth. These are standard templates. And all politicians need to do is to tap into some template. Doesn't matter whether he's shifting from party A to B or B to A or A to C and vice versa. So let's look at it this way. So these kind of assertions and justifications for party shifts are absolutely false, and more importantly, they are not even thought out, and neither the speaker of those comments knows it is serious, nor is the person who is hearing it knows it is serious. We as part of the media, our duty is to report what they say, so we report it, but nobody believes any of these comments. Firstly, if you look at Prasad Gaonkar, since you mentioned him, Prasad Gaonkar, if he felt that the BJP is not the same party, which is fine, he can feel that way. But then in the middle, he made this grand announcement that he was going to be the candidate. He would be supporting the Trinamool Congress in his electoral journey, and then he completely decided to kind of change course again and come to the Congress. So first he has to explain his latest shift. He doesn't need to explain why he moved away, because he had already moved away from the BJP and given that excuse when he said, "I'm going to back Trinamool." Now, when he's coming from Trinamool to the Congress now, what excuse will he give? So the issue, this is nothing. These politicians are backed by different lobbies, different corporate interests. They are stooges of one particular or two politicians. They behave like puppets on a string, and these politicians and different lobbies, it could be the mining lobby or some other industrial lobby, who basically use them as puppets to go here and there. So they are not, I don't see them in any kind of seriousness. Michael Lobo, of course, again, so this is now the jumping season. Everybody is jumping like frogs. Michael Lobo has jumped, Rowan County jumped, and so many people. You had as many as I think 12 MLAs who've resigned. So you had Jayesh Salgaonkar who quit, and now Rowan County quit. I'm talking only of the sitting MLAs and ministers. Alina Saldana quit. So I'm just saying that there are so many MLAs, sitting MLAs who resigned and put. Churchill Alamau has quit, but he says he is not quit, but so that he is still a his party has merged. So I'm saying that this has happened. The whole procession of people joining, Reginald resigned and joined TMC. So whole procession is going on currently. It has nothing to do with ideology. It has just got to do completely with opportunism and the best deal that people get. Sadly, they get away with it because the people of Goa are used to this, and there is not enough noise being made, and there is a currency given to these kind of activities everywhere.
Now, related to this issue of MLAs resigning or ministers resigning and changing sides, we have on Tuesday, January 11th, this report that the Mayan Congress backs out of the Congress Goa Forward deal, and 35 block members resign en masse as a result of the Goa Forward candidate being projected in Mahe. And related to the Michael Lobo switchover, you have the entire Kalangut Block Congress resigning, because the question is that senior leader like P. Chidambaram had said that the block committees were endowed with this idea of screening candidates and suggesting 3 names. Now, what does this do, whether it is Congress or whether it is BJP, what does it do to the grassroots workers and their psyche?
There are two kinds of grassroots workers. There are sycophants of particular politicians. They are very happy because as long as the politician is in power and can control them, their bread, butter, jam, bacon, everything is taken care of. So those kind of workers are not serious political. But there are many parties, and I would say even BJP or Congress, they also have die-hard people who held the party flag without any rewards or recognition for generations. You have people who are there for 20 years, 30 years, even quiet party workers. I feel sad for them because they are the ones who are unable to accept the system. They are in absolute shock, and they get very hurt when these kind of activities take place, because those are the kind of people who probably belong to a generation who believe word of mouth. For them, a word of mouth and an assurance given by a party leader is much more than even a written document or an affidavit. So when Chidambaram or anybody else for that matter, and Chidambaram is a good example because he has asserted this very often, that it is the bloc which is going to suggest shortlist names. The bloc will give it to the district will send it to the state election committee, and the state election committee will finally make the final recommendations and go. This has been said and overemphasized time and again by the Congress. What has happened, of course, is an absolute antithesis of this. diametrically opposite, because the blocks, when it comes to deals, the blocks are not taken into confidence. And I would just like to point out one remark that AICC in charge of Goa, the Goa desk Dinesh Gundurao made. He said workers should understand if parties need to make pre-poll alliances. This is completely contrary to what P. Chidambaram says, where he says that ultimately the bloc and the district and the state election committee will decide. I have no role to play. So there are two people, the two senior most people in charge of the Congress, making two diametrically opposite comments. But I would say that Gundurao's comments are at least more honest, because that is the way, that is what the party has become. What Gundurao refers to are political deals that need to be done, and old time workers need to keep quiet and accept it, because these deals are important to win elections according to them.
Okay, now these are complex maneuvers which are in, where members of political parties indulge in ahead of this election, and there is more political drama to unfold in the days to come. So let us watch ahead what happens in the next week. This is all the time we have in this program of the week that was. I thank my guest Mr. Sujay Gupta for his insights and analysis into the week that was. See you again on this program next week. Thanks for watching.